Right, here we go. So yeah, it's June 2021 and we've got Mark's Sinclair C5 in. So yeah, it's in for basically a full-on service, quick release connectors, Jon Webster disc brake kit up front, general sort of tidy up sort of thing. One thing I don't do is I will give it a token wash, but I don't do detailing on cleaning, heavy cleaning of C5s, because I think that's a nice thing for the owners to do. But as this is very dirty, I'm going to give it a wash in a minute when I go out, let it dry out during the day. But I've just done a few bits and bobs already on it, as you can see by the tools. So, nice headlight. It's covered in dirt, but it's not too bad. These marks here will come out with Brillo pads and Sif cream. Status of the tyre, front brake cable seized, that's fine, we're putting in a new disc brake kit anyway. Stickers are pretty good down the side, body is overall good. I've already removed this, sanded it down and painted, and basically started to paint it, primered and painted it in gloss black. That way it can dry out during the day when I'm out with the family. That's all looking pretty good. It's all scratched, but that'll clean up nice. We've got new tyres for it there, plus new inner tubes, of course, which have arrived. I'm not going to have a chance to paint these, so that's something that you could do in the future. But there's not enough time for it to paint and dry. And this one here is the seized one, but that'll just be the cable or the caliper, so that's fine. We're putting a new cable in anyway because of the disc. Completely mint underneath there, absolutely love it. Sweet. It's a February 85 model, super clean underneath there. That's meant to have as a C5 sticker. Personally, as it's faded, I would just scrape it off. Just be careful, never use jet wash on a C5 because this will fly off in like seconds. So if you do jet wash over C5, just always cover that over absolutely mint with a rubber mat and everything else, protect it. Otherwise I would just scrape it off and just clean it off, with a hot air gun, that kind of gist. So yeah, I've just done a quick release connectors. I wanted to do a few bits and bobs before I went out for the day. So in there, with heat shrink over, and boom, got lights on, little scratch here. I always point these things out just so the buyer knows. So yeah, quick little lift up on it. Right, so that looks good. That does actually look really good. So this part here shouldn't do that. That normally means it's because the freewheel at the back, which is there, it's normally semi-seized on, which obviously it probably is, or chain tension or something along those lines. So I'll sort that out so that shouldn't spin. I mean, you do get a little bit of movement sometimes, but it shouldn't really spin. So it's probably a catchy freewheel. That looked really good. So when you stop it from flat and you give it the gas, it should sort of go up to sort of red amber to sort of show that it's got the stress, and then straight to green. So that looks good. And again, I've left this on for about 5 minutes. The lights look really good. So that's exactly what I wanted, because I can fix all electronic issues, but pretty much not in 24 hours, when this C5 needs to go. So that's pleasing to leave it on. Again, marks here, just dirt. Original bungs in here, really nice light. A few little marks along the top here, otherwise sweet. I'll return the original tyres back to you. Chain looks good, like I mentioned to you a second ago. That's probably seized or gummed up or something, so we'll clean that out. Motor looks good. White gearbox, perfect. So I'll take that out. I'll physically clean it, take it out, rebuild the entire thing, photograph it, video it, etc. Rebuild and clean the bearings and bits and bobs in the drive gear. I've got a brand new belt if we need it, but if we don't need it, I don't see a point putting it on. We'll have a look at it when take it out. Do the wheel bearings on this side, and obviously clean out the brake shoes. Brakes are never good on the C5, but you've now got disc brakes up front. You're going to have, and the back brakes work all right. They're obviously quite catchy, and obviously they only work on one wheel. But that's a good combination until you want to get the rear disc brake if you want to use it in the future for heavy use. But otherwise, honestly, a front disc and a rear standard is perfectly fine for normal, decent use. Electronics haven't been taken apart before. Original rivets in here, which is good news as well. Original sticker on the wonk, which is what we like. Nice hubcap on this side. Centre cap's nice. That's obviously nice. The other side's the skanky side. This side's a good side. Sticker's really nice down there. Yeah, all looks nice down there. Parts wise, we're not going to cut the hubcap up. If you do cut it up in the future, you basically cut a bit around the caliper, which is one side or the other, but it's about this much here. Plus, you have to cut a little bit off this piece here. So what I did is when I cut that off, I fit it on. I normally drill a small hole through here and here to put a cable tie through to wrap it around the post to keep it absolutely secure. because without that full piece on, it's a little bit not spot on. So just be aware, but it looks really, really nice, the C5 does, with disc brakes on and not covered over. So I'd personally just leave it off for the moment. New tyres, like we said, had to go out to shop to buy some primer, and obviously I need this to clean out the gearbox and the brakes, so I'll probably go through best part of the whole bottle on that, which is fine. Obviously don't need that much on this, but I had to go and buy some of this and some gloss black to do the light switch cover. New 12-inch inner tube in the bag there. Dry belt if we need it. Brake kit, brand new, Jon Webster special, front end, all brand new. Fixtures and fittings for that. We've also got brand new inner tubes which are out here. And we've got the part there in the sun, looking good. So I need to sort of get some stuff done now before I go out. That's all. So I'm going to give the C5 a token wash now. That way when I get home this afternoon, it will be ready to work on tonight and much cleaner. Cool. But yeah, I'm really, really pleased electronic wise that is still on. So that is a godsend, and happy days, and well done, Jon. Great C5. Nice one. And we'll assume the lights are going to work when I connect them up, so we'll try it. If not, we can repair all that sort of stuff. And underneath, chassis wise, it's got a light corrosion on the grey chassis. Otherwise it's really good. You know, it's the same as the hoop at the back. You know, light corrosion on here, but otherwise it's bloody sweet. It's not, you know, it's 95%. Beautiful, you know. So yeah, good looking C5. Cool. Cheers. Yeah, hey Mark. So part 2. So as you see, the disc is on. Looks really nice. So just a bit of a tip, basically. Obviously, you might need to adjust the disc at some point. You know, obviously it's quite normal, you know, of course, for a disc to slightly skim, because obviously trying to get it dead centre, you know, for the 2 pads. So it's quite normal for it to skim a little bit, and obviously it'll wear in, bed in, all that sort of stuff. But what you need to do basically is, as long as it's sort of just about skimming, which this one here is, it's spot on. All you need to do, otherwise, if you need to adjust it, just Allen key. This one here, just literally just loosen it just enough so you can move the this end part here and out, you know, with your thumb, because you only want to move it a fraction, either left or right, and then of course, and then tighten it up, and then obviously spin it, see how it is, and obviously you can look through the gap here, if you can see that. Then of course, if you think it's rubbing at the back, then there's just one up here, so loosen that again, it's literally about quarter of a turn, I would say, just enough to be able to move this in and out firmly, and then obviously you can then nip it up and then spin it and see how it is. So that's basically the adjustment procedure, you know. So it's pretty easy, because obviously that'll bed in as well and all that sort of stuff. Cool. But yeah, otherwise it's on. Tyres got the right direction on here, and the disc's also got a direction on as well, so it's in the right direction. All the wheel bearings all done, all that sort of stuff. All tightened up. There's no washers underneath these, so that's just a 15mm on each side done. Wheel bearings is all adjusted spot on. So, you know, we've also got the brand new bent valve one on there as well, easy to inflate. You want to run this, you know, quite firm. These tyres do need to be quite firm. So that's the best way, the most efficient way. Good for you know, anyone's weight, your weight, etc. So I would suggest running these at potentially 40 psi. I think they're meant to be about 30 psi, but because these are much tighter tyres on the rim, I would suggest you go for sort of 35 to 40, but just stick it on, see how it feels, sit in it. You know, if the tyres are blatantly, you know, you need to go a bit firmer, then go a bit firmer. You can't go too heavy on the tyres, you know, because they possibly may pop off, but these are much better tyres than the originals. So, you know, I reckon you could probably do a 40 psi. Cool, there you go. Excellent, cheers. Right, cool. So, lights on there. Lights on the front with the nicely repainted switch. I had to use the original screws, they're a bit grubby, so I'm going to put a little dab of black marker pen on there. Spot on. Now, power connected up. It's only on there loosely on there. So as per the previous minute, I've just adjusted the belt. So you'll make sure the belt's not too tight. So what we'll do for now is we'll put our first mark just on the top here, just so we know that that's our benchmark. That's where we're starting off right now, so we can either loosen it or tighten it. Now, what you get used to, is you get used to the sound of a Sinclair C5 motor. So if I've over tightened that, so if I've twisted that too far downwards and over tightened it, it would sound tight. It's difficult to know what that sounds like, but obviously when you know a Sinclair C5 motor, you know it sounds tight. That sounds absolutely spot on. It's revving freely. You revving it, it's revving lovely and nice and smooth. And obviously if it's too loose, you'll put your finger on here, on the belt there, and have too much play, or you'll sit in it and it'll just make that graunching noise, even if it's sat on the pedestal. If it's just too loose and on the pedestal, it'll make a graunching noise. The graunching noise, like we said to you, is either because the belt is too loose, or the belt itself is knackered, or the pulley is knackered, which is unlikely, or the gearbox output shaft is knackered, which is also quite likely. These pulleys don't tend to wear, they tend to crack occasionally, but they don't tend to wear out, whereas the gearbox part does wear out because people sort of like run it off the pedestal, or too tight or too loose, or whatever, it slips, and it just causes that part there to get, you know, worn out. But this particular C5 is spot on. Belt looks spot on. Both these two ups here look perfect. Gearbox is perfect. So yeah, we'll just run it like that. We'll just basically try it, and if you try it and it graunches and it slips, crank up a little bit, down a bit more, tighten it. Otherwise we'll leave it exactly as it is. But yeah, that's our benchmark there, all in a row on the blue. Nice one. Yeah, so motor's rebuilt, absolutely spot on. Should be all be absolutely perfect, that motor. So I'm going to quickly show you the technique that I use to tighten up the belt, adjust the belt. So what you find is, if say someone gets into the C5, mainly an adult, and just presses a throttle button without pedalling, they put a ton of strain through the system here. There's no slipper clutch, it's just straight through belt onto plastic. And you might find that what happens is the gearbox here in brown falls off the little pedestal here, and that then causes the motor to tilt downwards, and then the belt becomes, you know, it doesn't look like it's loose, but it is loose, and you have this awful graunching, grinding sound, like a real clicking, evil sound. Look at it, and chances are it's probably fallen off the pedestal here. That thin bit there, that thin bit has to be sat on there. And what Sinclair did is they later put in a piece of metal that sort of keeps this pedestal upright. Also, people also use a big fat cable tie around it, but you don't need to really use any of that if you just adjust it properly in the first place, and if the person who's using it doesn't cock it up, you know. So it's kind of like a bit of a safety thing, you know, that if you do cock it up, hopefully it'll fall off the pedestal rather than ruining the gearbox. And by the way, sorry I'm chatting so fast on these, it's just because I don't like to have a video about half an hour long, you know. So technique is, get a long screwdriver, basically wedge it in there. Normally obviously I do this two-handed, so it's difficult to sort of show you one-handed, but ultimately hold it in there, normally with your left hand. Make sure this is quite loose on here, and the motor here is tilting upwards. This is pointing fairly upwards, that means it's in its loosest position. And all you do, you just hold the left hand here, then you twist the motor. I can't really, obviously I can't clearly hold it like this, but you twist like that, and what you find is obviously if you're putting pressure on it, the pedestal will stay upright. Now obviously it's getting close to the edge because I'm not putting my hand on it, but basically you just do it like that, you know, and then whilst you're also pushing this motor that way, yeah, and that's, you can see that is sat on it there. So what I'll do now is I'll take that out, tighten this up until it's until the gap here is completely flat. That's important. Obviously you don't want to over tighten it. It has to be flat because there's a lot of pressure going through the system. You can see how loose I have it, because you need to have it quite loose in order to be able to get the gearbox over under, you know, the belt over the gearbox. Cool. And that's closed. And then obviously, of course you then rotate it backwards slowly, just to basically line the belt, so the belt itself then lines up on the pulley here, and then happy days. Double check. Yep, absolutely spot on there. And obviously that's one-handed, yeah, so I can probably do it a little bit better because there's a bit of a tiny gap here, you know. So now what I'm going to do is now off camera, I'm going to loosen this, put the screwdriver in again, loosen it upwards, and then just push it in that little extra millimetre, because it always helps in having the extra bit on the belt. But that's the technique. Okay, cool. So that's critically important, that bit there. Nice one. Cheers. Right, cool. So lights on there, lights on the front with the nicely repainted switch. I had to use the original screws, they're a bit grubby, so I'm going to put a little dab of black marker pen on there. Spot on. Now power connected up. It's only on there loosely on there. So as per the previous minute, I've just adjusted the belt. So you got to make sure the belt's not too tight. So what we'll do for now is we'll put our first mark just on the top here, just so we know that that's our benchmark. That's where we're starting off right now, so we can either loosen it or tighten it. Now, what you get used to is you get used to the sound of a Sinclair C5 motor. So if I've over tightened that, so if I've twisted that too far downwards and over tightened it, it would sound tight. It's difficult to know what that sounds like, but obviously when you know a Sinclair C5 motor, you know it sounds tight. That sounds absolutely spot on. It's revving freely, revving it, it's revving lovely and nice and smooth. And obviously if it's too loose, you'll put your finger on here, on the belt there, and too much play, or you'll sit in it and it'll just make that graunching noise, even if it's sat on a pedestal. If it's just too loose and on the pedestal, it'll make a graunching noise. The graunching noise, like we said to you, is either because the belt is too loose, or the belt itself is knackered, or the pulley's knackered, which is unlikely, or the gearbox output shaft is knackered, which is also quite likely. These pulleys don't tend to wear, they tend to crack occasionally, but they don't tend to wear out, whereas the gearbox part does wear out because people sort of like run it off the pedestal, or too tight or too loose, or whatever, it slips, and it just causes that part there to get, you know, worn out. But this particular C5 is spot on. Belt looks spot on. Both these two ups here look perfect. Gearbox is perfect. So yeah, we'll just run it like that. We'll just basically try it, and if you try it and it graunches and it slips, crank it up a little bit, down a bit more, tighten it. Otherwise, we'll leave it exactly as it is. But yeah, that's our benchmark there, all in a row on the blue. Nice one. Right, Mark, just been out on a long test drive. It's Saturday evening, of course, and basically there is a fault with the electronics, and I'm not going to be able to repair this at this stage, because it requires, if we were to do it, a ULA chip replacement, which we need to order from Geoff Wells. It's not an expensive item, you know, but yeah, it needs it at some point. But what's happening is, you see at the moment, you've got full. So I've been out for about 20 minutes roughly. You've got a full battery on the right hand side. So you've got the two ambers either side, greens, amber, reds. What's happening is, of course, that's the battery monitor. So if I drive around now, so you'll see now it's just drop one green. In a minute it'll drop another green, then it'll drop an amber, then it'll drop two reds, then it'll beep. Normally when it beeps, it means either the battery's flat or the C5 is overheating, and then it cuts out, and you have to wait 5 minutes or change the battery. On your one, it's a very, very weird one. That basically it beeps, and then it just goes back to full battery power again. So back to your full greens, orange, reds, and then it starts again completely fine. I mean, it doesn't cut out, doesn't stop. You know, you can see it now. If you can see it now, we've lost one, and then in a minute we'll lose two reds, then it'll beep. But yeah, it's definitely a weird one. But yeah, that is going to be, because the battery is good. The red connector on the back, I've cleaned it. It's all absolutely mint. It's all El Minto. Nothing's been taken apart, you know. So yeah, it'll just be a minor fault with the ULA chip, just because of age. Happens, you know, often. And I say the Geoff Wells ULA chip's about 15-20 quid. You know, obviously you have to cut a few wires, take a diode out. Otherwise, it's quite a simple job. So you see here now, it's done that. C5's still working fine. Gone up to the full scenario again. So yeah, you just got a fault with your C5, but I would consider it a minor one. And it looks like, you know, the C5 still works spot on. You know, and I say we've been out for like 23-24 minutes now roughly, and it's done that 3 times. So you kind of get the idea of it's every sort of 6-7 minutes. Cool, but otherwise drives nice, brakes are good. Again, brakes need bedding in. The back brake's good, because the back brakes are never that great, but this one here doesn't lock up. You know, it just works like a normal brake. Again, it'll bed in even better now I've cleaned it. The front brake, again, it works completely fine. There's a cable adjustment on it, you know, to tighten up a little bit, but again, it just needs bedding in. I have adjusted it, you know, a little bit as well, you know, because you don't want to catch them too much. Yeah, absolutely lovely. But you can see now it's back to full power, and I say in a few minutes, you know, it'll just like drop down again. So yeah, that's your little fault. Otherwise, it drives spot on. Okay. Yeah, really nice, really nice, and yeah. So you'll be happy with this. And like I say, just get out there and adjust, use it. You know, adjust the brakes if required. You know, at some point, you know, once it's bed in. But that power brake, that's just back brake. Back to mouse. There we go. Nice one.